It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Well, a good day, everybody, and welcome to the program. I'm Brad Miller. It is County-Wide. We're very pleased to welcome into the studio a first-time guest on County-Wide. Lesa West is the owner of New Life CPR, and you're based, Lesa, in the Prescott,
area.
Well, thank you for coming in today, and myself and yourself and many of us, millions of folks here a week or two ago were compelled by the dramatic story that played out on Monday Night Football. Damar Hamlin, 24-year-old Buffalo Bills player, apparently was hit, causing a cardio, some kind of a problem. We'll not speculate on exactly what happened, but I think we're all familiar with the story by now. He, in a sense, died on the field, was brought back through a skill that we should all know and that you have spent a good part of your life helping us understand, and that is cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR.
Exactly.
Talk to me just briefly. I don't want to spend a lot of it on what we know has happened. It sounds like the prognosis for this young man is very good.
Yes.
And it all started with the knowledge and the skills that trainers and other staff had brought onto the field with them that night.
Correct.
And it was CPR, almost certainly that gave us this happy outcome. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the biggest thing that people need to understand, the quicker that we move, as we always say, the quicker that we react, that's where we're going to have the best success. So, and that's what happened in that scene. So the key is just getting someone to move really quick and start doing something. And then at that point, then they brought the AED on. So, so we really need to get people to understand how important doing CPR in any kind of situation in regards to when someone goes down, and do it now and not wait. So hearing this success story, which we do have success stories, but hearing his success story is incredible because we need to get people to understand this does work. And as much as people get afraid and scared, it's like, no, quit being afraid. We need you to do something. So that's what we need to understand what's happening here. And those guys, and a lot of times when you have your trainers and et cetera, those guys are in there. So they're going to jump right in there and start doing the skills. So they did a great job keeping everyone together. And people panic over that time issue. It's like, you just need to put the whole thing in together of what was going on that 8 minutes, because I'm sure if they really clock it all down, it's probably not as panicky as people think it is. But
you could even hear, and I don't want to spend too much time on that because the more important picture is CPR and learning it and understanding it. But I do want to refer back to that. I know how I felt after 7 minutes had gone by. I could hear how Joe Buck, the announcer, felt after 7 or 8 minutes had gone by. But now look, so perseverance paid off. Clearly, the folks who'd been trained that night in CPR understood you keep going until further and more pertinent intervention can happen. And you're saying that's exactly right.
Exactly, yeah. And as much as people, and I'm not saying you will never get tired when people talk about that, but also remember your adrenaline is flowing. So I promise that I will say, I hate to use percentages, but 90+% of the time, your body will take care of you during this. Now if you're in Timbuktu, different ball game. But if you're around town or something, your body really will take care of what needs to happen at this point. So
and you can switch out.
Good. Absolutely, if I've got it, and anybody can help me. So we're not doing rocket science here. We're pumping and blowing, as we say. So it's not hard. That's what we got people to do. Don't be afraid of this. So move it.
Let's say this now. You are at the forefront of this. You're on the front line of training people to do it. And certainly, it comes to mind first responders obviously are going to know either through your training or what they get with their own departments. It starts to tear down from that. Folks in elderly care facilities, daycares and things like that. But you would strongly advise that if you are physically capable of performing CPR, you should understand it and take a class.
Yeah, absolutely. Our statistics that we had here in Yavapai County in 2019, now granted, where everything's been kind of blurry since then with statistics go. But in 2019 we had strong statistics. We had in Yavapai County 95 out of the hospital cardiac arrest. 95. 90 of them happened at home. This is where we need to wake up our community. The person that you're doing CPR to, somebody you know. This is not that stranger on the street that people always talk about. Yes, it can happen, but that's not reality. You're going to do this to somebody in your your living room. So it's going to be a family. It's going to be a friend. It's going to be people you hang out with, your neighbors. So if you think about that, it's the people you're around a lot. That's who you're going to do this to.
Right.
So when we understand that part of it, then it should take part of that fear factor away.
Sure.
And that's where we need to get people to understand you really, really need to know the skills because it's something you'll always remember. You may forget the counts because we change numbers all the time just to irritate people and keep me in a job. We just like to do that part. But it's a science base, so that's where it changed on that part. We just need to get people to understand that it's okay. As long as you understand what your main technique is, that's what we're looking for. So as long as you're pumping, so when we say push hard, push fast, we ain't kidding.
Right.
I need to make sure that's what you're doing.
Right.
And if you understand what your full technique is on that part, then I don't care if you forget what your counts are.
Yeah.
Pull a number out of the sky. I don't care. Then hopefully when someone else comes by, they may go, oh yeah, now I remember it's 30 and 2,
Right.
So, and it's okay. It's not bad. The key is I just need for you to do something.
Well,
don't be afraid.
Isn't there, and also, like you said, it's going to be almost certainly a very personal thing. And even if it's not, but there is an intimacy to it. And I don't mean that, of course, in the romantic sense, but you are going to become very, very physically close to someone. And does that shy people away? Is that an excuse? Or is it just, I don't have the time to take the class?
I'm going to say never on that one. I know a lot of people say, I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
So here's the key. You need to take the time.
Yeah.
We're talking, depends on what level you're taking. So, a couple of hours for a CPR class-ish. So letting you know that's it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's it. So it's not hard to do. And when we do in homes, they are hysterical. Because when we go in homes, people bring in pizza and, we're just laughing and having a good old time. And then, because that's what's important is because we want to be there. There's nothing worse than, and I threaten a lot of people for this because it's like, there's nothing worse than for me to ever hear that in my people that I hang out with is that I never want to hear you tell me that you lost someone that was close to you for this. That's not acceptable to me. And that's why I don't care what you say. I'm very bossy. You're going to take a class because this is what it's about. My bunco girls, they all had to take a class because they said, if I go down, you better know CPR. So, there's a requirement to play bunco,
Beyond saving the life of a dear friend, the embarrassment factor, if nothing else. Hey, we don't care what motivates you. Just learn this skill.
Exactly.
And we joke about that, but it's very, very true.
Yes.
And exactly the way you said. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay, I don't want to go back to how long it's been since I took my first CPR class, many of us did
do that.
in high school. But we had the dummy, and there
Correct.
you heard a click,
Correct.
and there was a certain kind of mechanism. Have the basics changed much?
Not the biggest thing. So when we talk about when you're pushing on the heart, so appreciate that when you go down, and I was laughing because I can't show you what I'm talking about, but it's when your heart is quivering. So that's what happens when you go down. Your heart's quivering because it's going so wacko that it's quivering at that point. So when you're doing those compressions, so when you're pushing on the chest, then what you are doing is you're still providing blood, oxygenated blood, going to the brain because this is what CPR is about. CPR is about the brain, not the heart.
Right.
I can change the heart. I can fix it, do whatever. I can't change the brain. So that's why people need to understand how important it is to keep all this blood going to the brain. So when we say the push hard, push fast, I need to make sure that you're going deep. So when people hear 2 inches in depth, I'm not kidding, because you have to understand you're placing your hands in the center of the chest. So if you can appreciate kind of like where the ribs come together, there's that breastplate or that sternum.
On the sternum?
On the sternum. Okay. And you're pushing straight down. So literally your ribs are connected with about 1 inch of cartilage. So that's what allows you to breathe deep breaths and kind of move around like that. But that's what allows that movement, allows you to go deep at that point. So you've got to make sure that you are pumping because that's what this is all about.
You're massaging an internal organ
Correct.
through the structure that was devised to protect that
Exactly.
organ from
Yes,
such compressions.
We have such a cool body.
So
and
you
yes,
got-
that's exactly what's happening. Because the key is when people talk about pushing deep, which is very, very true, but also understanding coming back up on the heart is just as important. Because people want to keep the heart squishy. And the key is you got to make sure you come all the way back up again. Because appreciate now, blood's got to come back into the heart. So if you kind of think of a turkey baster, that's what you're doing with a turkey baster. When you're squishing it, if you only just barely squish it, then you're only going to get a little bit of that turkey juice, okay? But when you do it all the way, now you're going to get all of it. And then when you push it back out, you're doing the same thing. So it's kind of like that's the same thing. You're just kind of like a turkey baster is what you're doing for the brain right now.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
Any symbolism you come up with
Exactly.
that helps our listeners understand.
And food is very important. So
Right. We do need to take a short break. Plenty more to talk about. Lesa West, New Life CPR in Prescott, and we'll talk more about. I want to be able to. Folks can reach out to you, and we'll do that before we wrap up the program. But something we saw played out on Monday Night Football a week or two ago, and you need to know the same skills that brought back that young Buffalo Bills player. We'll talk more about it on Countywide right after this.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Service for over 25 years and continues to serve the communities in northern Arizona. Jackson Hewitt is here to help you file your personal taxes. As laws and situations change, your local Jackson Hewitt Tax Service professional stays updated to serve you. Drop off or make an in-person appointment. In Flagstaff, call 213-8626. That's 213-8626. That's 213-8626.
The award-winning experts at Verde Solar Services offer the trusted carrier products that help you customize a solution to fit your budget. Verde Solar is a family-owned business serving the Verde Valley for 38 years with the carrier products you can rely on. Carrier AC systems are trusted to bring energy-efficient, quiet, consistent comfort. Call 928-567-5315 for a free assessment of your AC and air quality needs. Verde Solar Services, online at verdesolaire.com, a factory-authorized carrier dealer.
Don't let concerns about today's events derail your long-term financial strategy. Hi, I'm Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Matthias Sandoval, and I'm here to help. We can work together to understand the impact of these events and make sure your goals are top of mind. While you can't control the market volatility, we'll focus on what you can control. We can connect in several virtual ways. Start by giving me a call at 634-1044.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Welcome back to Countywide. Again, I'm Brad Miller, and our guest today is Lesa West. Lisa's with New Life CPR, based out of Prescott, but serving Yavapai County. And you can reach out at 928-445-5024. We'll repeat that number and give additional information about how you can contact New Life CPR before we wrap up this morning. CPR is the kind of skill that you can learn. You said you'll never forget it. Once you take a class, it'll always kind of be there like riding a bike. But it's probably, isn't it, important to stay refreshed? Sometimes the techniques will change, sometimes dramatically, like with the breath. Sometimes minor. You want to know the latest. How often do I need to come see you?
As far as certification for people who are required to have it and kind of thing, it's every 2 years. So that's a requirement for that. For other people who take it in all hopes, I hope nobody's doing CPR all the time. So we still recommend that, we still suggest you should do it every 2 years. Some businesses will still do it every year because of the possibility of that OSHA, protocol, because OSHA is requiring it, because they just want to keep it more fresh in their heads for that in case there does, situation actually does occur, for that. And it's mostly, when you're thinking about that, when you're thinking about OSHA, you're thinking about a facility, a factory or something. So there is a whole big protocol that we have to abide by, how we're calling 911, what we're doing at that point, who's going to be coming in, who's going to be, because it may be a safety team that's going to be doing something, but there may be someone who's going to be performing skills immediately at that point, and then the rest of the crew will come in. So it just depends. But as far as what we call the true lay person, And every 2 years, because it is something that we do like to change. We have been using science with American Hearts. We've been doing actually science since the 2000s. Since then, before it was hit or miss, as we always used to laugh.
Right.
So after that, now it's what we call international standards. So now it's all the way across the board. So you can take a class here and take a class in China. It's the same class. You should learn the same basic information with what's going on. So it is science.
Am I right in recalling that somewhere along the way, if there's been any kind of major change to the CPR protocol, it was with the breath giving? Or am I remembering that right? Or I don't want to confuse anybody.
Yeah, it physically has not gone through protocol yet. So you still have to do breaths. So if you are getting certified, you still have to give breaths. That has not changed in protocol. So we are still at 30 compressions and 2 breaths. Now, when you are hiking and you are by yourself, you come across somebody, they go down, you're not comfortable giving breaths, then by all means do compression-only CPR. There's still a lot of science for it and against it, so it's kind of been going back and forth now for many years. Arizona has been studying compression-only CPR, since 98 down in Tucson, so it's been going through for a long, long time. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm just trying to visualize myself doing this while I'm giving the chest compressions. Does that in any way also manipulate the lungs to draw air, or is it just 2 different pumps and systems?
It can, because your lungs are right directly behind where you're actually giving the compressions, okay? Also appreciate, though, you have a body that is laying down, okay? So when you have a body that's laying down, and appreciate... trying to explain this without being on the radio. Where does the tongue go when you have somebody who's laying flat on their back? So the tongue is going back, okay? So appreciate now it's not getting good air in at that point, because now my tongue is in the way.
Okay.
When we physically give a breath, the first thing we do is pop the head back. So we put one hand on the forehead, and we have pulled the chin back so that we're moving that tongue out of our way in order to give that breath that we're giving at that point to go down into the lungs. So that's why a lot of things are happening on that part as far as the controversy. The other part is definitely in regards to pediatric. Understand, in a pediatric world, it is probably a breathing problem. It is probably not a cardiac problem. So that is why a lot of times when people talk about this, there's a lot of stipulations on compression-only CPR. So we just got to get people to understand. I'm okay with it if you don't know this person. That's fine. Doing something is the most important in the whole wide world. When I have AEDs in facilities, then again, I don't care if you do compression-only CPR until the AED arrives, because the AED arrives should always have a barrier or a mask or something at that point. So, and they're going to be there quick. So, as far as that part goes. So, when people talk about that, it has not passed standards yet. So the biggest thing is you cannot receive a card and do compression-only CPR. It has not passed standards.
Okay, so here, just kind of hearing you talk that, it doesn't, I don't want to say kind of gets convoluted, but it just, to me, underscores the reason that I need to contact you and you folks and make sure that I understand how this is going. Particularly, if you start to think, and you mentioned this at the top of the show, but to repeat a tiny bit, if you are just, forget the folks who professionally might need CPR. Just in your own household, if you have an elderly parent who doesn't even live with you but maybe visits frequently, or an elderly neighbor, if you have anyone who is at risk for any reason, and almost all of us are going to check at least 1 or 2 of those boxes.
Absolutely.
And so that's why we need to kind of get in there. I got to ask you, have you ever real world used CPR, or do you have a story about that you know of personally?
No, I have not, knock on wood.
And you'd be happy to live the rest of your life without, you've got a skill that it saves a life, but if you never need it, that's like anything.
It's good.
Yeah.
When people ask, because people ask us that question a lot, and the key is to understand this, the true people who really do CPR is my first responders, of course. Your ER rooms in the hospital,
that's why they're called.
Yeah, and the key is, the majority of people, even in the hospital, have never done CPR before. So it's because it's not on their floor, kind of thing. So they don't have to perform anything at that point. That's why people need to understand this is an insurance. This is what this is.
Right.
It's just like it's no different from having insurance on your car, your house, whatever. This is insurance, and it's a
Safety
it's a
net.
life skill. It's
Yeah.
a life skill that you will always will be able to do at this point.
Right.
So, like we said earlier, you may forget part of the steps. That's okay. Right now, I just need for you to do something for that person.
Right.
Because doing something is better than nothing, and in your brain, you can live with that. If you don't do anything and you stand around, that's a hard one to get over.
Right.
Because now all you think about is, I wish I would have.
That's what you'll never forget.
Exactly.
Who wants to walk around with that?
Exactly. And that's why I don't want you to be there.
Right.
I really don't want you to be there. I need for you to do something.
I want to do this during the break. What you're talking about is so compelling that I've invited you to kind of do a second segment.
Yeah, thank you.
And what I want to get into in that, and we're going to break in just a moment. When we come back, we'll give you Lisa's phone number and things like that so you can reach out and do the stuff she's talking about today. But I want to talk about the AEDs.
Yes.
It was used in the Damar Hamlin thing. I think
Right.
it's typically used when we start with CPR, and it's a whole nother thing that we've talked about. It's been out there, but here again, let's refresh
Yes.
because this has been in the news with this Buffalo Bills football player. We'll take a short break. We'll come back. Some great information about how you can contact New Life CPR and get yourself educated, get yourself prepared, get you and your family insured the best you can to be ready for the unthinkable. It's countywide. We'll be back after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley for 38 years, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust, designed, engineered, and built in the USA. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates on systems that are quiet and affordable. Verde Solaire is locally owned since 1983 and available for all your heating, air conditioning, and plumbing needs. Call 928-567-5315. Visit them online at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Taxes, taxes, taxes.
It's that time again. This is Lewis with Rice Accounting Jackson Hewitt Tax Service. We don't sell cars, we don't do hair or wait tables. We do taxes. At Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, we talk taxes and we prepare taxes. Open year-round for tax filings. Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, located throughout northern Arizona. For over 20 years, our local preparers have helped neighbors pay their fair share and no more.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service in the Tri-Cities at 772-7872. That's 772-7872.
Welcome back. Our final piece of Countywide for today. But again, Lesa West, New Life CPR, is going to join us for a second segment. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into CPR and the AED. It's an acronym meaning
Automated External Defibrillator.
Okay. Would you describe it? What in CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation.
Correct.
It's a manual thing.
Correct.
AED is what? A cousin to that?
That's a good one.
What is the relationship?
It's understanding that when you're doing CPR, because the heart quivering and doing so many crazy things, I cannot change the rhythm of the heart when you're doing CPR. And that's where people on television is so bad, going, oh, she's got a heart, she's got a pulse, she's fine. You know?
Geez.
And it's understanding that we can't change that rhythm.
Right.
Only that AED can change the rhythm. Because literally exactly, because the heart's electrical, this is electrical. So at this point, when you shock it, so when you push that button to shock it at that point, then without people panicking, you are stopping that heart, and then we are immediately starting the CPR back on top of it, which means now I am getting that heartbeat back into its rhythm again.
Okay.
So it's kind of like rebooting a computer.
And again, I want to do a bit more on that in our second entire segment with Lesa West. Compelling discussion. But the AED, am I right, was used in the Damar Hamlin situation on the field.
Correct.
That's what got him into the ambulance to the hospital where more dire care was able to be administered. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, what a guest you have been and will be again in a second segment. But folks, get signed up if it's a refresher, if you haven't done it for so long that it'll almost maybe be somewhat new to you. Some of those skills stay in the muscle memory. But Lesa, every 2 years, she recommends. Tell me how to get in touch with you and New Life CPR to get signed up.
Okay. So you can call us at 928-445 5024, or you can always send me an email, which is Lesa, and it's Lesa, so I'm different. So Lesa at newlifecpr.org. And as much as we talk about Prescott, guys, we come over to Cottonwood, Sedona, Camp Verde. We just need to have a group. So just so you know, if you've got 8 to 10 people, we come right to you. And we love doing in-home classes. So, any kind of facility, we come right to you to help you with that, CPR and or first aid. So let us know if we can help you in any way on that one. But we got your back. The key is I want you to have my back. So I want you to get me. So
that's terrific. It'll wrap up our program for today. Again, coming up on our next segment of Countywide, we will again talk to Lesa West with New Life CPR. We're going to talk more about the AED and some of the ways that that is administered, and from the time that someone may be stricken to the time that they end up in the hospital. What happens there? It's as important as what we've already talked about. I'm Brad Miller. It's Countywide, and we will see you next time.
This has been Countywide. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday at this time. If you have a topic or guest idea that you'd like to suggest, email us, news@myradioplace.com.